The heavy bag did not move. It did not swing, nor did it groan under the weight of the impact. It simply folded, as if the air inside it had been turned to lead by a single touch. The man standing before the bag was not a giant. He stood 5 feet 7 inches tall, weighing barely 145 pounds. He looked more like a dancer than a destroyer. But in that room, the air had grown thin. Muhammad Ali, the king of the world, watched with a narrowing gaze that betrayed a flicker of something he rarely felt: doubt. The date was a Tuesday in early 1972. The city was Los Angeles, a place where legends are manufactured, yet reality is often ignored. The sun was setting over a private gym, casting long, orange shadows across the polished wooden floor. The smell of old leather, linoleum, and stale sweat filled the space. Outside, the world was loud with the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement. Inside, there was only the sound of rhythmic breathing. Bruce Lee stood in the center of the gym. He wore a simple gray tracksuit. No belt, no uniform, no ego. He was 31 years old. He moved with a feline grace, his feet barely touching the ground as he adjusted his position. He was being subtested. He was being questioned by the most famous man on the planet. Muhammad Ali stood across from him. He was a colossus of muscle and charisma, standing 6 feet 3 inches tall. Ali represented the pinnacle of Western power. He was the greatest. His strength was visible, measurable, and loud. He had laughed at the party in Beverly Hills just days before. He had heard the rumors of the little dragon. You tell me a little man can beat a boxer? Ali had joked, his voice booming over the clink of cocktail glasses. Bring him to me. Let me see this magic. Ali's skepticism was not malicious. It was the natural arrogance of a man who had conquered the most brutal sport in the world through size and speed. Bruce had not laughed. He had watched Ali with a quiet, analytical intensity. He did not see a rival. He did not see an enemy. He saw a problem of physics that required a solution of efficiency. Now, in the silence of the private gym, the joke had vanished. The small crowd of witnesses, trainers, a few trusted journalists, and close associates stood against the walls. No cameras were allowed. No flashbulbs. This was a meeting of spirits, not a media event. Ali stepped forward, filling the space with his presence. He began to shadowbox, his hands a blur of motion. "Okay, Bruce," Ali said, his voice lower now, devoid of the public bravado. "Show me. 1 strike. I won't move. You hit me, and we see if I'm still standing." It was a dangerous proposition. For Bruce, it was a risk of professional ruin. If he failed to affect the heavyweight champion, his philosophy would be dismissed as a myth. For Ali, it was a test of his own invincibility. He believed his ribs were like iron, his midsection a fortress. Bruce took a deep breath. He did not settle into a traditional stance. He did not tense his muscles. He became still. He looked not at Ali's face, but through his center. He understood that Ali was expecting a blow. He was expecting the heavy, swinging force of a punch. But Bruce did not intend to punch. He intended to transfer kinetic energy into a specific anatomical point. "Are you ready?" Bruce asked. His voice was calm, like a lake without a ripple. Ali nodded. He braced his core. He planted his feet. He was a mountain of meat and bone. Bruce stepped in. The movement was so economical it almost looked lazy. He did not wind up. There was no tell in his shoulders, no shift in his eyes. The strike landed exactly 4 inches above Ali's navel, deep into the solar plexus. It was not a thud. It was a sharp, whip-like crack that echoed off the high ceiling. Ali's eyes flew open. The air left his lungs in a single, ragged gasp. The giant did not fall immediately. He buckled. His knees dipped, and his hands, usually so fast, clutched at his stomach as he doubled over. Silence swallowed the room. It was a silence so heavy it felt like a physical weight. Ali remained bent, gasping for air that refused to enter his lungs. His face turned a deep shade of red. Bruce did not celebrate. He did not strike a pose. He stepped back and waited. He stood with his hands at his sides, his expression one of somber respect. He had no desire to humiliate the champion. Seconds felt like minutes. Finally, Ali took a shuddering breath. He straightened up slowly, his hands still pressed against his chest. He looked at Bruce. The dismissive light in his eyes was gone. It had been replaced by a profound, haunting clarity. "That wasn't a punch," Ollie whispered, his voice still strained. "That was an explosion." Bruce nodded once. "Size is a resource," Bruce said quietly, "but precision is a master." Ollie sat on a nearby bench, still regaining his composure. The witnesses remained frozen, unable to process the subversion of their reality. Bruce walked over to Ollie. He sat beside him, the dancer next to the Colossus. "You use your strength to crush," Bruce explained. "I use my speed to penetrate. Tension is the enemy of force." Bruce explained the philosophy of the non-telegraph punch. He spoke of the difference between visual power and functional power. "A waterfall is beautiful to look at," Bruce said, "but a needle finds the nerve. One is an image of power. The other is the application of it." Ollie listened. He did not argue. He did not make a joke for the crowd. In that moment, the greatest boxer in history became a student. He asked about the alignment of the hips. He asked about the relaxation of the shoulder. The two men talked for an hour. They spoke of the bridge between the East and the West. They spoke of the burden of being a symbol, of the loneliness of the seeker. When the meeting ended, they shook hands. Ollie's hand swallowed Bruce's, but the grip was different now. It was a grip of equals. As Ollie left the gym, he turned back to Bruce. "I'm glad there were no cameras," Ollie said with a small, knowing smile. "The world isn't ready for the truth," Bruce replied. "They prefer the legend." The story of that day did not make the front pages. It did not appear in the sports biographies of the time. The 300 witnesses, the trainers, the insiders, spoke of it in whispers. They told the story in backrooms and martial arts schools. But the mainstream sports culture could not accept it. It contradicted the theology of the heavyweight. People argued that it must have been a fluke. They argued that Ollie wasn't truly set. They chose to believe in size because size is easy to understand. They chose to ignore precision because precision requires a change in consciousness. Muhammad Ali never spoke of it publicly in detail. To do so would have been to admit a vulnerability the public wouldn't allow him to have. But his style changed subtly in the years that followed. He spoke more of energy. He looked more for the inner timing. Bruce Lee went back to his work. He did not use the encounter to promote himself. He did not need the world to know he had incapacitated the champion. He only needed to know that his truth was functional. He remained a seed of change. He continued to teach that the human body is not a machine of force, but a vessel of intent. Decades have passed since that sunset in Los Angeles. Both men have transcended the physical world. Yet the echoes of that single strike remain for those who know where to listen. It reminds us that our eyes often deceive us. We look for power in the loudest places. We assume that the larger man is the stronger man. We assume that the loudest voice is the wisest voice. But power is not a spectacle. It is a quiet, disciplined alignment of truth and action. It is found in the silence before the storm. It is found in the relaxation before the strike. We often move through life underestimating the small, the quiet, and the disciplined. We dismiss what doesn't fit our preconceived notions of authority. But a single second can dismantle a lifetime of assumptions. A single touch can reveal the fragility of a fortress. Ask yourself today, what are you underestimating because of its size? What truth are you ignoring because it doesn't shout? Real power does not seek to be seen. It only seeks to be effective. True mastery is not the ability to dominate others, but the ability to master the self so completely that dominance becomes unnecessary. The world will always chase the fight. The seeker looks for what lies beyond it. True power begins before the fight. Visit Bruce Lee, Beyond the Fight, to discover the philosophy behind the legend.